All right. What's up, team? How is everyone doing? Let me know if everyone can hear me, if everyone can see me, if everything is all right as well. Let me know. How is everyone doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I imagine, to a lot of people as well. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Congratulations, Netherlands. Thank you. First win in the Euros, I think. I didn't see the last part, but I think we just won. Someone is happy after watching Weghorst scoring. Yeah, I only saw the first half on my second screen, but I didn't see the second half, but I don't know. Just happy we won. Is it still sunlight there? It's this is Colombia, so it's 10 a.m. in the morning right now. So it's the day is just starting here. It's still morning for me. Why looking so good? Thank you. Thank you. Happy 8. Netherlands won. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Looking sharp. Thank you. Always ready. Could you activate subtitles? I'm not sure how to do that, actually. Let me check really quick if I can do that on my side. I'm not sure if it's afterwards, because I think they get generated. I think the subtitles get generated after the video automatically. So I'm not too sure, my friend. Not too sure. Not 100% sure. I would have to check afterwards. But afterwards, I think they are on. How is everyone doing? It's 7 p.m. in Dubai. Yeah. Other side of the world. Did you watch Holland? The first half. First half only. And then it was 1-1. It was quite disappointing, to be honest. The Netherlands, the Dutch team never wins very convincingly, but hopefully they prove me wrong. We have a lot of questions today. Good. That's good. You live in Colombia? I didn't know that. I partially live in Colombia. Netherlands and Colombia. I try to switch them. Partially. 11 p.m. in Philippines. Wow. 11 p.m. in Philippines. That's some dedication. I would be sleeping, to be honest. All right. Let's see. Can you simplify order block that 5-year-old can understand? Oof. Wow, that's a difficult one, because when I think of that, I already think automatically of a fair value gap, but even a fair value gap is like, can a 5-year-old understand that? If we take it very seriously, I would argue maybe not. How do you understand a fair value gap? Or how do you understand order block? That's for a 5-year-old. That's quite difficult, to be honest, you know? The first thing that comes to mind is down candles, up candles. That's it. Down candles when we're going higher. That's an order block, but that's very, very vague. You're looking like Tom Cruise. Don't say that. Don't boost my ego too much now. Come on. Make sure you don't take anything back from Colombia to the Netherlands. I won't. Oh, yeah. Hey, cutie. Stop it. Come on. You're going too far now. How was your week, bro? It was good. Good week. Trading-wise, well, to be honest, the week was quite interesting. And we'll touch on that as well. The week was quite interesting because at the end of the week, we actually had really high probability conditions. And that's very interesting. And I was quite happy about that because we finally, after a while, I would argue, we had some good conditions. It's still Rome and MT Discord. I'm not sure what you mean with Rome. Not sure what you mean, my friend. Oh, Colombia, South America, not Colombia in the US. Yeah, correct. Welcome to Latin America, man. Don't listen to the media too much. No, I know. I've been here for a while now. I've been here for in total 8 months. It's the first time I came here, of course, you can imagine. I was almost shitting my pants, I would argue. But it's all love, to be honest. I mean, I haven't experienced something crazy. Or it comes like, whoa, yes. Since last week, yeah? Since last week. In month May is your break even. Can you explain why? Yeah, because month May, well, the break even that I took, or the break even month that I had in May, was simply my own fault. So I can blame the market, but it was simply my own fault, because at the beginning of the month, we had good conditions, high probability conditions as well, according to my trading plan. So I made some profits. But at the end of the month, almost in the last day, I think it was, from top of my head, it was May 27th. I took something like 3 trades, or 2 trades, something like that. And they just didn't work out, had a break even, had a loss, and it just essentially screw over all my profits. And in the month of May, we didn't necessarily have great conditions. So even any percentage that I could make was just very nice. But yeah, I screwed up, essentially. I screwed up. And I think it was a lack of focus, because I was 2 weeks traveling, so 2 weeks in the Netherlands, jet lag, things like that. Don't want to necessarily blame it on that, but then I did lose focus. So that's a bit of a shame. And that's my own fault. Nothing else to blame. Are you turning me into a TA monster off of YouTube alone? Love that, Don. Love that. Welcome back, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Welcome back. Appreciate that a lot. Love to see it. Let's see. I had my first payout this week, Marina. Okay. Wow. That is insane. And it's the first one, right? Keep the focus. Keep the focus for the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one. Eventually we want to get to so many payouts that we can't even count them anymore. That is insane. That's great to hear. But again, keep the focus. Very important. Let's see. Yeah, Mark, please let me know. I might join MT soon. I sent you an email not too long ago. Please tell Bullish Lucas in the chat your email, or send a message again to info@ario.io and we'll go over that. Excuse us if we did miss it. Ik ben een indrukwekkende jongeman. Je hebt me samen met een paar anderen echt geholpen op het gebied van ICT en ICT. Dankjewel Daniel. Dankjewel. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you. FVG never lie. FVG's never lie. Well, FVG's never lie. That's actually funny, because with that, let's start the forecast as well. The FVG's never lie, but they can manipulate. So they can sort of lie to you, if that makes sense. And that's very interesting, actually. So if we get into that, because then we'll go over the dollar as well, let's actually look at that. If we take a look at the dollar right here, and I'll first recap quickly what happened last week, because then we can also understand, or this week, and then we can understand better what happened actually throughout next week as well, hopefully. So if we take a look right here at the dollar, then what do we see? Is my screen, my face cam is quite big. I'm going to remove it for now. All right, the dollar right here, what are we doing? Weekly, monthly, not necessarily very important to me right now. I'm mainly looking at the daily and below that. And the reason I'm mainly looking at the daily and below that is because we talked about this high, right? And we talked about that high quite in depth last week. Why did we talk so in depth on that high? Because we wanted to see, okay, we know we're most likely going to aim for this high right here. But are we going to run it, or are we going to sweep it to then continue lower? Now, there was one really good sign that we are actually running that high. And that was the following. On the 4-hour right here, again, liquidity sweep versus run. We have a dedicated video on that as well. If we run a high, ideally, we want to see the fair value gap that is overlapping with the high getting respected right there to then create a new fair value gap. This tells us, from a liquidity theory, we are comfortable above that high. Because again, if we sweep a high, we should never be comfortable above a high. Right here, we are not comfortable above, or we are not comfortable above that high right there. Why is that important? Because if institutions are trying to get involved and they need that liquidity, so they need to trap traders, then traders actually need to get trapped. They can't get out their position. That's the whole goal. So if we immediately move towards the other side of the liquidity, then someone's take profit for the institutions is the other trapped traders stop loss right there. They can't go break even. They can't mitigate that loss right there. That's our goal. So here, we are comfortable above this high. And when we are comfortable above that high, I mentioned in a live session in the MMT earlier this week, that's a really good sign right there that we actually might want to continue higher throughout the week and that we can finally see some good high probability conditions again. Because here, people can get out of position. Nobody is actually getting trapped right there. And that's the important part. So right here, what do we see? We saw then news, CPI, and that's mainly what I was waiting for, CPI and FOMC. Now, this is where fair value gaps, you need to understand fair value gaps. When you just learn about fair value gaps, I might tell you, fair value gaps tell you the intention. Fair value gaps can also manipulate. Fair value gaps can sort of, like mentioned in the chat as well earlier, they can sort of lie to you. And what I mean by that is they can move into the fake direction first to then have the real direction. Now that is oftentimes seen by fair value gaps before that time not getting respected. What do I mean by that? Well, here we have this small 4-hour value gap getting respected right there. And when that gets respected, meaning we get a new 4-hour value gap higher off of that right there, that means bullish is in control. The bullish side is somewhat in control right there. When we only have a fair value gap, a big fair value gap, doesn't really matter how big it is, towards one side of the market, that's not necessarily good order flow towards one side of the market. And that's very important to understand, because if it's just one big candle, a lot of people think right here, oh wow, this is definitely bearish. No, this might not be bearish. This is just manipulation to then continue higher. So that's what we mentioned in the MMT, that we would like to see higher prices right here of the fair value gaps, of the breaker, to then continue higher again. Now afterwards, we see the third candle being a big retracement. And let's think about this very logically. If the fair value gaps show you intention right here at this moment in time, and the intention is truly to continue lower right here, then should we, with this much intention at that moment in time, not immediately continue lower, or at least maybe have a very small fair value gap or a very small retracement to then sting into it to then continue lower? So something like third candle right there, sting into it to then immediately continue lower right there. It doesn't make sense. From a logical standpoint, if fair value gaps tells intention, that this retracement right there already does not make sense. It's an extra confirmation. The confluences start adding up. So here we have, right now, we have the run on the high. Tells us we're comfortable above that high. Perfect. We're not sweeping it to continue lower. So we're potentially running it. We have this fair value gap. We had no build-up order flow. So there was no fair value gap previously getting respected, meaning this could already be a manipulation gap. Third candle, candle science, is telling us that's quite an aggressive move higher right there. What happens on the 1 hour? On the 1 hour, we have a move higher right here, and we actually get perfect order flow to just simply continue higher. And that Thursday right there, with understanding this story, that Thursday and that Friday were so extremely high probability. We have seen on Euro US dollar, and I unfortunately missed the trade, but we saw some of the highest probability conditions in a while. So here, eventually we continue higher. So what do we have right now? We have order flow going higher. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. Now, there's a few things. We have, throughout next week, we have good US dollar news. So nothing crazy, no big three news events, NFP, CPI, or FOMC. We do have bank holiday on a Wednesday. It's Independence Day. And Americans, correct me if I am wrong, on Wednesday. And then on Monday, we have normal US dollar referral news, Tuesday as well. So that could be interesting to trade already at the beginning of the week. So here on the 4 hour, what do we see? Again, we want to see highs getting ran. So here we see this fair value area. This right now is a fair value area. Price does not have a reason to now retrace very deep right there. If that does happen, either we're going to continue lower or we're going to consolidate to still continue higher. Neither conditions that we would want to actively get involved in. So this fair value area right now is interesting. We could sting into that fair value gap right there that's overlapping with the fair value area to then continue higher off of that. That's exactly what I'm looking at for that Monday. That could be very interesting. Now, with understanding that, we can now, of course, look at the other indices, Forex majors, and it becomes quite easy to understand what we want to see on those pairs and instruments. Now, right here, again, keep in mind, every resistance level that we have towards the left right now is a swing high. So the retracements are created from swing highs to the left. So if we want to create daily fair gaps, for example, they will be created off the swing highs that we are respecting towards the left right there. So ideally, again, we want to keep on running highs. If we get weird price action, we get a big retracement, then we might be back in consolidating price action, which we don't, of course, which we would prefer not to see at least. All right, then if we move on to the indices. Indices are quite interesting, but also a little bit more difficult because they are contradicting each other. What do I mean by that? Well, on Russell right here, we see bearish price action. And I would argue we could create a daily value gap right there to simply continue lower from. We had a beautiful move. Again, where the fair value gaps lie right here is this. We have this fake move. So we mentioned as well in the MMT, this bearish value gap is extremely high probability. Why? Because this is based on nothing. It's based on thin air. It's just a move higher to get people involved. There's nothing backing it at that moment in time. Then we get a bearish value gap, a sharp turn right there. That's extremely high probability to trade off of right here. Very nice 4-hour value gap. So here, can we find fair value gaps to still continue lower off of? But I'm not that convinced on the indices when I also look at ES and NASDAQ. Last week's forecast, I mentioned we might see lower prices right there after sweeping the highs on ES and NASDAQ. Well, we got the exact opposite. But we also never got the signs that we actually wanted to continue lower right there. So it was still consolidation to then just push higher. And when we pushed higher right there, we had this daily value gap created. Off of that daily value gap, it's still what we can continue higher off of. Now, we need to understand all-time highs. ES, NASDAQ are at all-time highs. And all-time highs are difficult to trade. Why? Because the usual reaction, a beginner reaction, I would argue, when you see all-time highs, is to try to call the top, is to try to see, okay, can we continue lower right here? Because we don't have a clear target anymore towards the left right there. Can we have somewhat of a retracement? So we try to trade the retracement. What we want to do at all-time highs is we don't want to chase price and we also don't want to call top, because both of those things will, I would argue, both of those things, they give the most losses to a beginning trader, either trying to call top or trying to chase price. So we want to wait for a higher time frame PD rate, daily, weekly, monthly, to then simply continue higher off of that. That's it. So here we now have something to work with because we have a target again to the left right there, that swing high. Off this daily value gap, we can now look to continue higher right here. So do we have anything supporting the idea right now? Well, we have a very small fair value gap right here, but I would like to see what it wants to do at equities open right there. Again, indices are always a little bit tricky, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is tricky in the form of a forecast. For the Forex majors, I can give you a good idea of what it wants to do in the long term. ES right here, if you're trying to trade equities open, it really depends on what it looks like ahead of equities open right there. So if we have a fair value gap right here hovering below us at equities open, I would just want to see a sting into it to then continue higher, deliver towards this high. And then again, can we sweep this high or can we run this high? So pay attention. If we have fair value gaps overlapping, we're comfortable above that high, perfect. We can potentially continue higher again. If we have something like this, where we immediately reject off that, continuing lower, then this low right here becomes a target. So I'm giving and I'm trying, hopefully it makes sense, I'm trying to give you the framework to reacting. So not only telling you, hey, it goes there and then, well, you do you, try figuring out what you want, right? No. Pay attention to what we do with that high, because once we reach that high, that's important. That's the moment where the forecast essentially is eliminated and you're without me at that moment in time. So we need to be able to react, sweep or run. That's the way we react. And that then determines the next target. All right, NASDAQ. So NASDAQ is already above that high right there. Also did not come into daily value gap. This is currently at the current price action at an all-time high. So whenever that's the case, there's nothing else to do than wait. Nothing else to do than simply waiting for either a clear higher time for PD rate that we can trade off of higher again, or we get a sweep right here to continue lower and we can target lower right there. But in the meantime, it's simply waiting. And when we do start getting bearish price action, then we ideally want to see on the 1 hour fair value gap retracement, new fair value gap right there. So not trading the first fair value gap because that's trying to call the top. Wait for clear bearish order flow confirmed to continue lower. Then targeting lower prices right there. And those lows are simply daily fair value gaps as well, which could be a very interesting target. All right, YM. Now YM, again, this is just very messy price action overall. And especially with the other indices, which are potentially continuing higher at this moment in time, then can we confidently say that YM wants to continue lower? Well, YM on its own, it's sort of like a whole family relationship, the indices, where you have the big brother, you also have the small little brothers, and the big brothers determine what we're going to do, which is mainly ES, I would argue. That's the main one that's going to determine what's going to happen in the market at the next day, etc. So if ES tells the other brothers, well, we're going to continue higher, and YM says, well, I want to continue lower, just purely based on YM price action alone, then YM alone is not strong enough to make a significant push lower. What does that lead to? If one brother tells, we're going higher, and YM on its own tells us, we want to go lower, well, that gives someone pushing on the high side, someone pushing on the low side, where neither side is strong enough to make something happen. So that leads to a consolidation, 50-50 price action. So that's what we want to avoid. So here, YM to me is not that interesting again. If we can continue lower, yeah, then yes, this 4-hour fair value gap right there. But that 4-hour value gap at this moment in time does not seem like it wants to get respected right there. So we might continue higher a little bit to then just simply go back into consolidation, continue lower, consolidation, continue higher, consolidation, until we get, again, clear 4-hour value gaps that are actually holding right there. So YM to me, again, is just not that interesting at this moment in time. If we get some bullish price action, we could still look to target this weekly fair value gap potentially right there as well, which could potentially be interesting. All right, DAX. So DAX, very similar relationship with that little brother, big brother, etc. So here on DAX, can we continue lower? Yes. If we want to continue lower, I would want to wait for a daily fair value gap to continue lower off of, where this low eventually could become the target right there. But again, I would want to wait for a clear daily fair value gap to continue lower off of, purely because of the other reasons that we just mentioned. If ES wants to continue higher, then DAX is also affected by that. So even it's not in the US and it's a German index, we still need to take into account the other indices right there as well. Very important to understand. So here, if we want to continue lower, I would want to wait for daily value gap. If we create the daily value gap very odd, so the third candle is a high candle, then I would look at higher price again. Or we disrespect the daily value gap, again, higher prices. Very important to react. Now, Forex majors is interesting because when we have higher prices, or we understand, and this was very important to understand, by the way, throughout last week or the past week, Thursday and Friday, we could argue the target is very clear, that high right there. But we need to understand which one of the Forex majors do we then actually want to trade, because they're not all equally as high probability. We want to trade the one with the most arguments in our favor, which is actually also, I'm not sure if it's smart to say, but it's one of the next videos that's also coming. So just understand that. Okay, now, right here, what could be a reason why we don't want to trade Australian dollar, US dollar? Well, we have this daily fair value gap right there going against us. So that's quite important to understand. That's resistance right there, which we don't necessarily want to see higher prices off of, but we can see a rejection off of that. So there might be a struggle on the lower time frame from overtaking that, which is why we see rejections like this, constant rejections. So Euro US dollar, for example, like mentioned in the candle signs video as well, and if we follow through on that candle signs video, what do we see? We have this fair value area right there. That's the full fair value area. We have this fair value gap as well. We have quite a big retracement, and it's quite a big up candle as well. So I'll give you that. We might have some bullish intention right there. But the main giveaway on why I just wanted to continue lower and why I mentioned, hey, study that candle rejection, look at the long wick at the top right there. In combination with understanding the dollar, what happened as well. In combination with understanding that we're running this low right there. Look at the long wick at the top. That's the perfect giveaway that we might actually want to continue lower. And that we have a chance to prevent this daily fair value gap from being created right here. Right there. Which in turn then gives us a 4-hour fair value gap right here to continue lower from. This 4-hour value gap is the highest probability fair value gap that you'll ever see. That's so extremely high probability. Now, why that is very high probability, again, in the next video as well, which is exactly what we're going to go over Examples like this. Now, afterwards, we can just simply look to continue lower right here. And this is exactly why we want to trade euro US dollar, because there's no daily value gap going against us. Now, GU also didn't have a daily value gap going against us, but on the 4 hour, did we have that same 4 hour value gap? No. So keep the eyes on EU right there. Now, what can we do right here? Keep in mind that here we have created, again, this fair value area, right? So this low right there, overlapping with that fair value gap, that's the fair value area. Why is that important to understand? Gives us a good understanding how we want to react. Because if we now get a big retracement right there, that's suspicious. I don't want to get involved anymore. Maybe we can continue lower. Yes, if we get more confirmation, new fair value gaps lower, we can still look at lower prices. Or we could potentially target this high afterwards right there. But the first thing we assume when we have this fair value area is that we sting into the fair value area, something like this, to then continue lower right there. Because there's no real reason to make a big retracement at that moment in time. And if we do make that retracement, then it's low probability. So keep that in mind, that if it does happen, don't necessarily jump to get involved. Very important. So that's what I'm looking at this moment in time. Now, it will be very interesting to see if we create the daily value gap right there, or if we already continue lower of the 4 hour value area. How do you know? Which one do you choose? Can you trade that third candle right there of the daily value gap? Well, if we retrace back into this, the signs will be there through candle signs as well, through order flow. Do we create new fair value gaps immediately, or do we struggle right here and consolidate? If we consolidate afterwards and we do not follow through immediately, perfect. Wait for the third candle, wait for the fair value gap right there to sting into, to then continue lower instead. Very important. All right, so euro US dollar is definitely one that's quite high on my interest list at this moment in time. It's really interesting overall. Now, GU reached this weekly value gap as well right there. So there's more resistance going against it. Where EU, it has quite a clear path to continue lower. If the dollar, of course, wants to continue higher. Nothing is guaranteed just yet, right? But it does look very good. All right, GU. Again, like I mentioned, personally not that interested in GU right here. I would prefer EU from all the Forex majors. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. So we also, same exact story. And Forex majors, it's all the same story. Because it's all based on the dollar. So that's why the dollar, that's where most of the time should be spent doing a forecast, essentially. Here, we're sweeping that high. We have resistance in the form of fair value gaps going against us. Can we continue lower? Yes. But again, I would prefer EU. I don't see a reason why I would trade New Zealand dollar, US dollar right here when we have EU at that moment in time. I just don't see it. So unless we have a significant move lower, we have a clear premium rate to continue lower off of, New Zealand dollar, US dollar could be interesting. Is it high probability? Yes, it's quite high probability. But euro US dollar at this moment in time from Forex majors is just flat out, easily by a mile, the highest probability to trade if we want to look at lower prices. All right, US dollar, Canadian dollar. Again, we can see the difference right here. See how this is consolidating. This is not interesting. So even though if the dollar wants to continue higher right there, then still I would not look at US dollar, Canadian dollar for higher price right here. Because it's simply not as high probability as other Forex majors. So yes, overall, it's consolidating. I am bullish because I'm bullish on the US dollar. But does not mean that I want to trade it right here. Because it just does not look that nice and interesting. If we do want to trade it, wait for 4 hours for value gaps right there to continue higher off of. Very important. Wait for clear confirmation. Very similar US dollar CHF right here. This is actually continuing lower right there at that moment in time. So here, it's just not that interesting to me. Now, we could potentially even sweep this low right here, or sweep one of those lows, to then continue higher, create unusual context, as we call it in the MMT, and then continue higher, where this high right there becomes the first target. Afterwards, we can target higher as well. That could be the case. But again, until that happens, I don't want to look at it. So I'll wait for that. And if we do get that, could be interesting later on. US dollar JPY. Candle signs. Perfect example, right? So here, even though the US dollar could be going higher, and we get this daily value gap, which we continue higher off of right now, this big rejection is not a good rejection that I would like to see at that moment in time, which translates on the lower time frame to a sharp turn. For value gaps going higher, for value gaps going lower. Candle signs. So how can we know that we still want to continue higher? Can we disrespect, which we already did, this fair value gap, and then follow through by a new 4 hour value gap going higher right there? That would tell me, okay, we still actually want to look for high price and we can still continue higher right there. US dollar JPY, is still also very interesting to me. So if I had to put it in a ranking, well, the top 2, Euro US dollar, number 1 by far right now, unless something changes, right? Again, we still need to react. US dollar JPY is number 2 right there, because if we get the proper confirmation right here, could still be very interesting to look at higher prices as well. All right, silver, what do we have? Silver is still a consolidation, and even though we have early signs we might be respecting this weekly VWAP gap, we failed to create the weekly VWAP gap lower right there. We never get the proper confirmation here to continue higher. And I mentioned this actually earlier on at MMT as well, where the more confirmation already has failed right there in the past, the more confirmation we're going to need in the future. So what I mean by that, if we have this weekly VWAP gap right here, we can see we had this rejection high right there, this rejection, and they all failed. All those rejection, all those VWAP gaps constantly failed. So if we still want to continue higher, we need more confirmation. We can't just get away with a simple 4-hour, 1-hour VWAP gap. Well, we can, but if we want to take every 4-hour VWAP gap every single time right here, then we will take a lot of losses and we will be -3 RR potentially before we catch a 1 to 2 RR winner. That doesn't make any sense, right? That's a very simple mathematical equation that tells us we are unprofitable. So we want to make sure that we have the right amount of confirmation so we don't take those losses before we take the winner. So here, I would simply want to wait for either a daily VWAP gap higher or a daily VWAP gap lower. The daily VWAP gap lower tells me that we're disrespecting the fair value area, and every swing low right there will become the target, with the main target, this intermediate term low right there. So that's what I'm waiting on. All right, gold. Now, gold to me was quite interesting. We had this monthly VWAP gap. Now, one thing that on the official, quote unquote, official futures contract, we already came into this monthly VWAP gap on gold, which is just something to take into account, just note it. So right here, if we can already see 4-hour VWAP gaps and we can run this high right there, then I would want to look at higher prices right there. Now, if that does not happen, and let's say we open up, we sweep this high right there. If we sweep that high, my eyes will still go again to this monthly VWAP gap right there. And this being the target, with these lows right there as the main target. And that is the main differentiator, running or sweeping that high. That's very important. Pay attention to that, because that's where the magic essentially is going to happen. And that will tell us if we want to continue higher, target higher for the rest of the week, or if we want to target that monthly VWAP gap right there. All right, Bitcoin. Let's see. Now, Bitcoin, we mentioned last week, if we want to follow through and we want to create new VWAP gap of this VWAP gap right there, then we can reach this weekly VWAP gap right there, which we could potentially see higher prices off of, but it's a weird retracement. It's quite a deep retracement overall to still continue higher. So here, I am not too convinced on higher prices, but at this moment in time, there's also not really anything supporting the idea of lower prices. Typical Bitcoin. And the way Bitcoin operates, if you try to, if you've been trading it or if you've just been doing an analysis on it, is that Bitcoin really heavily moves from consolidation, expansion, consolidation, expansion. What tends to be the case is if we consolidate, we still want to move into the intended direction. Meaning, before we were bullish right here. So we are now consolidating. We can still look at higher prices, in my opinion. The only difficult thing is that where can we exactly get involved? Because that's where we need to wait for the expansion. So if we can create expansions to continue higher right there, I would still want to see a new all-time high right there getting taken. And afterwards, reevaluating, seeing what it wants to do potentially lower prices even. I will take my ID back and I will reevaluate if we can get this fair value gap lower right there and actually continue lower off that. If that happens, then lower prices it is for Bitcoin. But in the meantime, I still want to see higher prices, but want to see an expansion phase, right? Don't want to just jump into a trade right now. All right, crude oil. Crude oil is up there with Euro US dollar, interest-wise, because to me it's very interesting right here. What do we have? If we just simply look at daily, actually, we don't need to go up in time frames at this moment in time. We have this daily fair value area right there. This from this low towards that high, that's a fair value area. Also just an order block, essentially also fair value area. Same thing. So here, to understand it easier, fair value area is nicer to me. We get a rejection of that fair value area. That should have continued lower. Then we get this daily value gap, like we discussed last week, right? So we want to see this daily value gap getting disrespected. Does not happen. We have a move higher right there. When we have this move higher, now every premium ray afterwards inside the fair value area is the next target, is resistance as well. With the main target, this high right there. We run into this fair value gap. This fair value gap right now is resistance. So it's essentially what's holding price back from reaching the main target. Still, we have to take that into account, right? Because we might not expect lower price off that, and we don't necessarily want to see that. But again, this is important. The rejection that we have, the reason why we consolidate at that moment in time. If we can see a clear discount rate, for example, sting into the fair value gap, a fast sting here, to then continue higher right there, or already continuing higher with new 4-hour value gaps, then this high right there is what I would want to target. If we can get a setup right here on crude oil, it would make me a happy man, because the drawn liquidity to me is quite clear in the form of that high. The only thing that we might have is that we might get a consolidation, which would worry me. I don't want to see that. But if we can have nice delivery towards that high, perfect. Very simple, very straightforward. That's what I would like to see right there. All right, Bank Nifty. Yeah, Bank Nifty is difficult right here. And the reason Bank Nifty is difficult is because we're consolidating. Again, notice this fair value gap, by the way, is the same premise as the dollar, euro, US dollar, what we had earlier on. Just because we have a big fair value gap does not mean we want to continue the direction. I would argue the bigger the fair value gap, usually the bigger the fair value gap, oftentimes we move in the opposite direction of that big fair value gap. So very interesting, just to note, just for your experience as well. Now here we are consolidating, and I do think we can still continue higher. So this high right here is still my overall target, but we don't have a clear discount rate right here that we can continue higher off of. So I'm mainly looking at a consolidation right here. And until we can run this high right here with a new fair value gap right there, then that becomes the fair value area. Then I would say, okay, we can actually look at high prices. Oh, we can look at high prices right there. But in the meantime, I don't want to do anything. I simply want to wait right here, if that makes sense. All right. Try to analyze US Treasury bonds and yields with dollar. Let's see. Let's see. I'll do ZB for this one. Let's just do the continuous contract. Let's see. Now, the reason why I've been looking at yields for a long time, as in I used to always use it for my forecast, etc. as well. I've removed it from the list actually, and the reason why that is because mainly to me it was not that interesting anymore, because it just led me to confusion overall on the dollar. Because if I just was analyzing the dollar itself, then I got to a clear outcome, and then I would combine it with the yields, etc. It would just mess me up. It would just mess up my forecast, etc. And I would not do anything or stay out of the market because of the yields, for example. But then the yields wouldn't play out and the dollar would, if that makes sense. So that's why I removed it. Now right here, let's do a quick higher time frame look at this. Overall, it seems like we are not respecting the current fair value area right there. So we might actually be targeting this high right there. I believe this is also 1 hour fair value gap right there. Weekly, let's see. Daily, okay. We might actually see some bullish prices right here on yields, on the bonds. So that leads me to understand, well, then we actually might see lower dollar. So that's why I personally don't really like it, because it's contradicting often. I just like to stick to the dollar right there. Just gives me a lot more clarity, if that makes sense. Yes, US 30 a little bit earlier, almost at the beginning of the forecast right there. YM. Yes. All right, perfect. I'm back. And my face cam is stuck again. Hello. Why does it always tend to do that? It's very interesting. Quite annoying, in all honesty. Hello. There it is. I'm back. All right, perfect. Let's see. Brazil. Everyone from Brazil is here. Love to see it. Love to see it. First time watching you live. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. Hope you like it. Hopefully you find something valuable, of course. If you don't learn from the live streams, then I did something wrong. So please let me know as well. When price goes into discovery, you can use break of support, fair value gaps, and order blocks on dollar to estimate where price will trade as you don't have old price levels. Love that. Love that. Exactly. Love that, Don. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that a lot, my friend. Don is really, you've been here for some time now. No, it's insane. Insane. Thank you, the Netherlands won. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Waiting for the upcoming video. Love to see it. Still some waiting to do, but slowly getting closer. I love your jacket. Thank you. I appreciate it. As a fair value gap trader, is it better to have an order block for extra confirmation? Not necessarily. You don't need it. You don't need it. But one thing that I'll do say, that I do want to say is, let's give an option right here, or let me see. Do we have an example? I want to find an example. Let's take silver. When we have, you need to understand when to trade off of solely as a fair value gap trader. This is very important. You need to understand when to trade solely off of a fair value gap alone, or when to combine it with a fair value area. So in other words, also an order block. So here, when we reach a certain intermediate high, the chance that we might get a deep retracement, because now we have not offered fair value just yet right there, is high. So trading off of fair value gaps that are above the fair value area right there, oftentimes you will notice, and when you start to study this, that's not the fair value gaps that you want to trade. So here, you want to actually combine it with an order block. But inside this, when moving towards that next high, you don't want to combine it with an order block. You just want to take it off of the fair value gaps alone, because that's where we've already offered fair value, if that makes sense. Study that. The fair value areas can come in really handy. Study that, and that's very important. Long live our handsome boy. What's going on today? Everyone is very nice to me today. Thank you. Thank you. Well, in general, everyone, I would argue. Not everyone, but most are very nice. I love that. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Do you take into account volume imbalances? No, personally, no. I used to do it, but even from data actually supporting the ID, volume imbalances tend to have less rejection, tend to be less strong, don't really follow through. They're not that strong as a fair value gap alone. So that's why I personally don't use them anymore. That makes sense. I've noticed you said long, fair value gap don't get respected. Exactly, my friend. Those are important things to actually study if you want to be a fair value gap trader, for sure. Any advice to pass the prop firm challenge? Risk management, my friend. Risk management. A lot of people nowadays, and this will come to bite a lot of people in their ass, because, and it's not necessarily referring to anyone in specific, but a lot of people are trying to gamble their way towards passing prop firm challenge. That's not the way to go, people. I can tell you right now, that's not the way to go, because you're going to turn into a very high-risk trader, high-risk gambler, essentially. And what happens is prop firms will change their rules to actually stick to trading. So what happened during the prop firm space, during the whole industry, is we basically had a race to the bottom. We had people making rules so easy, crazy easy, and prop firms can't A-book you if you only make 6% and you have a 100K account, right? So we need to get back to some more, well, we could argue difficult rules, but it's not necessarily to get the trader. It's also a reason to A-book, essentially. So stick to risk management. That's very important. Have boundaries. So I have a video on it actually as well. I believe it's top-down analysis. I'm not too sure. But there's a risk management notion in that sheet that you can use to also pass challenges. So having boundaries, for example, if you're in drawdown, drop risk. Don't increase risk and think, well, let me just buy another one. That's not the way to go, in my opinion. That's very important. Risk management, all comes down to risk management. And if the risk management is good, then it's just about learning, because you might not pass the first one challenge, which usually people tend to lose the first one. Perfect. You take that experience, journal it, learn from the mistakes, apply good risk management. There, you will pass eventually. You will pass. If you simply repeat that process over and over and stick to the same thing, you will pass. But most people don't stick to the same thing. That's very important. Let's see. I'll look at GBP Canadian dollar. Thank you. All right. That's crazy. All right, monthly. What are we doing? So we've reached that target, I believe. Yes, we had this target outlined, that weekly swing high right there, getting a big rejection off of that. So on the daily, this daily value gap is of course not necessarily interesting for me to trade off of. We might actually see lower prices, but I do want to wait right here and see what we do tomorrow. So if we can create this fair value gap right there and disrespect this fair value gap, good. That's when we can see lower prices. Now, what might happen is we first might get a sweep right here of the previous day low to then see a rejection higher right there. And then we also have this fair value gap. So we need to take that into account right there. This fair value gap that we're creating on the bearish side as well. So it's quite 50-50 at this moment in time, I would argue. It's not super interesting at this moment in time. Do we operate from 1 minute? Sometimes. I tend to tape read it. And the reason I tape read it is because it's a flow trading plan. So if I'm trading a flow trading plan, then yes, I do use the 1 minute as well. But mainly, I'm currently looking at a higher time frame trading plan that I'm using. So I'm only tape reading it. But yes, I do use the 1 minute as well. I think strong technical foundation from studying, training yourself to anticipate price delivery, to find your edge, combined with strong risk management, training psychology. Psychology is from time. Exactly. Very true, very true. Very true, Don. Very true. Yeah, I used to also mention as well, psychology is arguably at the end the most important, but at the beginning, it's futile to focus on psychology. The only psychology that you should focus on at the beginning of your trading journey is sticking to one thing, shiny object syndrome. That's the most important. Shiny object syndrome is arguably 90% the case why people don't actually make it work. Let's see. Do you have a day trader trading plan for a beginner? Yes, Delirium. And Delirium is what I would argue the main trading plan, what it all started with. In the MMT as well. Delirium, there's also some videos actually where I do not specifically name Delirium, but there's videos on a trading plan on YouTube as well, which you can just follow. GPJPY, let's do it. Let's do it. How are you doing, by the way, Esna? Great to see you again. Let's see. Yeah, GPJPY was quite interesting actually. We had this weekly value gap right there, which we can continue higher off of. Then we reached the high right there, which overall the delivery towards it was not that nice. So we actually struggled to continue higher a little bit. Afterwards, we see a consolidation. Now, I do think and I do believe that this low, well, let's first mark out this low actually, eventually can become the target. But I would like a little bit more confirmation of this fair value gap right there, because we have not been following through very nicely off fair value gaps alone. So here, if we can get good confirmation, then we could see lower prices right there, where eventually that low right there. But again, we need proper confirmation of that 4 hour value gap. So proper confirmation could be a 1 hour value gap lower off that, even a 4 hour value gap lower off of that, to then look to get involved again. That could be very interesting. First time joining, welcome, my friend. Welcome. Welcome to the dark side. No. Welcome to, how do you mention it again? Welcome to light at the end of the tunnel. Community. That's how it should be called. I'm learning O-stock now, but I'm confused. When you forecast 4 hour, when I'm only supposed to look at 1 hour, daily, weekly, and monthly. Yeah, when you focus on one shot, one kill, forecast in general for one shot, one kill is a little more difficult. The main forecast that you want to focus on for one shot, one kill is not the forecast throughout the week, but the forecast on Sunday or Monday, the beginning forecast essentially. Because if you go over the higher time frame, then that's where you would essentially stop. So monthly, weekly, daily right there. So if we take a look at Euro US dollar, for example, you wouldn't go into the 4 hour, you would just wait for the daily right there to then wait for 1 hour sharp turn, for example. So it's the forecast not essentially or exactly made for one shot, one kill trading plan, if that makes sense. Here's a good question. How would one know it is time to go full time? That's a great question. And that's a difficult question as well, because it depends. It's different for everyone else. First of all is never rush to go full time. That's very important. No matter what anyone tells you, usually just ends up bad going full time. And especially when you have responsibilities, of course. So, for example, in my position, I used to live with my parents. I had money saved up from drop shipping that I did before as well. So I didn't really have any crazy responsibility. So for me, going full time was not the same as someone with a 9 to 5 already going full time, essentially. So first, save money, have money on the side that you can fall back on. That's very important. And well, I would argue, first of all, try to make it work next to your job, next to whatever you're doing at that moment in time. Also, takes away a lot of stress from your trading. You don't have the feeling, I need to win this trade right now, otherwise I lose my house, essentially. That's very important. When you are ready is when you are consistent. And when you are consistent, you can survive multiple market conditions without seeing major drawdown. What I mean by that is, if you have a trending trading plan, you need to be able to survive and see consolidation price action coming and know that you're not going to lose a year's worth of money in that consolidation time period, lose your house, etc., to then essentially go bankrupt. So if you can survive different market conditions, that's when you're doing good, which I would argue is maybe a quarter, 2 quarters. If you can be consistent throughout 6 months, etc., that's when it's really time. All right, can I do this full time? Do I have enough capital? Have so much capital that the smallest amount of risk is essentially your monthly salary. So what I mean by that is, if you have a million in capital, million AUM, then if you even risk 0 to 5%, that's still $5,000 on a singular trade. That's the goal. It's not the goal to trade 50K, go full-time trading, and now risk 10% on a 50K, 1%. You want to risk the minimal amount possible, because when you're going full-time, you have another obligation, which is don't blow the account. Because when you blow the account right now, then it becomes very dangerous. So that's very important. That's very important to understand as well. So I would argue 50K, I see a lot of people on social media saying 50K. 50K for me, AUM, just prop firm challenges, for example, that's not enough to go full-time, in my opinion. At least have 200K, something like that. I just looked at GPJY. But I can go over it again really quick. GPJY, to sum it up right here, is those lows can be a nice target if we get the good confirmation right there of that 4-hour value gap right there. When will we see your prop firm? We're in the end stages. We have everything set except for one external thing, which we can't do anything about right now. That's simply waiting. So end of June, beginning of July, something like that. Can't make any promises right now, but we're getting there. It's been quite some time right now that has been in the work, but we're getting there eventually. Ooh, that's interesting actually, Isaac. Can you do the top down from high time to low time using only candle signs? That could be interesting. Very interesting. Alright, can you make a video on how to grow small accounts with examples of risk management and position size? Theoretically speaking, of course, not asking you to explain your own funds, etc. Yeah, that could be quite interesting. For sure. Yeah, I was planning actually to, with the new series as well, to sort of dive deeper into that, and as well risk management, which I don't really tend to go over on YouTube. There's any offer for MMC students? Well, we are looking eventually. At the beginning, they will just be separate things. So MMT, Fun as Friends, they will most likely be separate things. But we're looking to eventually move to such a thing where they start to grow together a little bit. So for example, want to have an academy for Fun and Friends? Hey, go to MMT. Want to, for example, if we know that people are educated by us and they were students of us, that might give us a better reason to A-book certain traders as well. So that way, eventually, we can even give certain discounts on challenges, or we can give challenges away if we see you're doing good, etc. Things like that. That could be very interesting. But at the beginning, most likely not yet. Not yet. Also depends, of course, how we're running the prop firm at the beginning. Very important. Yeah, the Euros. Netherlands had a game on the Euros. Yes. The European Championship against Poland. We won. Very nice. Love to see it. Greetings from my biggest friend from Nigeria. I love to see it. Thank you, Manny. Thank you. I appreciate it. When is the new series on YouTube? I'm not too sure. I don't have a date yet in my mind. Will probably take some time because I have to work out the full series first. Then also needs to be edited, of course. Probably maybe in the summer, somewhere in the summer. Because we're also looking to maybe, well, at least in my mind, if we can combine that with also things around with the MMT, for example. Could be interesting. Why did you open a prop firm? That's a good question. And the main answer to that is, when I started the MMT, it was, for me, not just the MMT. As in, I don't want to leave it as just the MMT. Now, a prop firm is quite risky, right? Because my reputation is also on the line. So I'll give you that. That's quite risky and that's quite scary as well, to be honest. But my main goal has always been, can we create a full environment where a trader can come in from, let's say your cousin, someone who doesn't know anything about trading, can come into the MMT, can go through a full project to eventually even reaching investors, which we can eventually also work to, reaching capital. That's the most important part right there, to fully be integrated into that ecosystem of the MMT. You come in as a beginner, you learn advanced stuff, you learn risk management, you learn about the prop firm, you can pass the challenge, we can A-book you. We can eventually, if you do so well, find investors for you, which is also what a lot of prop firms do. If you do so well, we can then find investors for you, for example. That's the whole goal. And currently we're in the middle somewhere because we're in the advanced stage. We don't have the beginner, which will come soon. We don't have the prop firm just yet. We don't have the capital just yet. That's the goal. So that's always been the goal, is providing the best value for the MMT. That's always been the goal. How long did it take you to become profitable? That's a good question because as some may know, I was profitable with my first trading strategy, but my main problem was I was still in a shiny object syndrome. So I was still new, didn't necessarily know what was going on. And then eventually I just took me a while, was all over the place in the shiny object. You know how, I think everyone knows how it goes. You search for the best next thing. It just isn't out there. So eventually you come to a realization, hey, maybe I just need to stick to what I already know. And then it started working. So that took me maybe 2-3 years, something like that, when I actually realized that. Is your prop A-book or B-book or a combo? Combo. At the beginning, you will be B-booked. You will have live environment, so it will be the same. So when we start A-booking you, you won't all of a sudden have crazy slippage, things like that. That's very important for us, but it will be a combo. We're looking to find reasons to A-book traders. That's important because we can't A-book everyone that gets funded. That's just not how the business works. It would be lovely in a utopia, but it just doesn't work. We make a separate video on the candle signs, sir. As in candle signs on its own, or do you mean the top down that you mentioned earlier as well? Explain us simply what was order flow. I get this question quite often, and it's really quite simple, to be honest. Order flow. Order flow is PD rates holding towards one side of the market. So hence, when I say, I don't want to be mysterious about it, but hence when I say in certain videos, wait for a retracement into a fair gap to then a new fair gap, that's PD rates holding towards one side of the market. That's order flow. If that makes sense. But challenges just exist if traders lose. Yeah, well, there's two ways to look at it. Because there's a way to look at it from a trader's perspective, which I would agree with you as well. There's also a way to look at it from a prop firm perspective. And usually rules, I don't think a prop firm with the most rules. So sometimes I see prop firms and they get almost hated because the trader doesn't like the rules and it's too difficult. And yes, I can see somehow as well, I can see from both sides, where if a prop firm has certain rules which are a bit sketchy, like, you just want us to fill. But there's also rules, for example, minimum trading days. We want you to be consistent, for example, with leverage and things like that, where it's just, hey, we are just looking for a reason to A-book you. It's not necessarily to stop you right now and to hurt you essentially. It's to help you in the long term, if that makes sense. That's why I oftentimes think the prop firms with not necessarily the the cheapest rules, hey, 4% and pass the challenge. Those are the sketchy prop firms in my opinion, because they don't have a reason to A-book you. So anyone can get funded right there. That's scary, because then the business model doesn't add up anymore, if that makes sense. Make it affordable for us. I'll try my best, my friend. I'll try my best. I'll try my best. But it's a very interesting topic, by the way. Very interesting topic. What will be different from your prop firm? Well, one thing that I always mention to the team, and which I think is very important, and which is lost nowadays in the prop firm space, basics. Basics. Service. Can I send a message and can I actually get a decent answer? Can I get someone that actually helps me look at if I have a problem? Basics. It's simple service oftentimes, which is very important. So we're not going to come out. So we're not going to come out and say, hey, 6% here, pass it now, 500% drawdown. No. That's not going to be us, but we're going to be service based, as in you won't have to worry about anything. That's very important. That's our goal, at least, and hopefully we can live up to those expectations. Stress-free trading, so you can just focus on your trading and you don't have to worry about, am I getting this payout, am I getting this, am I getting that. Of course, if you don't stick to the rules, we'll have a talk, but other than that, stress-free trading, and that you can always reach out. That's very important. It all starts with communication, which I think a lot of prop firms are lacking as well. All my trading career so far, I was on the shiny object syndrome. Now sticking to one mentor, one system, and stop getting distracted. Thank you for the journey. Thank you, my friend. Because again, I can mention that so many times over and over, shiny object syndrome. And I don't mind if I'm your mentor or someone else is your mentor. Stick to one person, stick to one mentor, and you will find success eventually. That's very important. How do you handle weekend gaps in the market? I tend to ignore them unless it really affects it very big, but I tend to ignore them. So new week opening gap, new day opening gap, I don't do anything with them. I don't really do anything with them. Is this recorded? This is, yeah, automatically recorded. It's placed on YouTube afterwards. Placed on YouTube afterwards. Yes, for sure, for sure. Let's see. It's time for the wrapping up. How do you know? Yeah, it's been 1 hour, but I'll go over some more questions as well. I'll go over some more questions. When will you stop making YouTube videos? Because you don't always have a new shiny new topic, right? That's a good question, really good question. And I'm not going to make YouTube videos forever. So let's just put that out. I'm not going to make YouTube videos forever. But as soon or as long as I feel like there's something to explain or that I can explain better. So for example, you'll notice my explanations get better. So not necessarily the new topics change, etc. I don't come out with, hey, here we have a whole new thing. All the concepts that I'm teaching essentially have been since the start of the MT. So that's the beginning of 2023, since the start. And I won't necessarily stop them because of that, because I always think I can improve explanations. So sometimes you might notice, hey, there's 2 videos on the same topics, which might be very similar. Yes, but I explain it in a certain different light, which might make more sense to another person as well. So if I can target that, then there's still reason to make a YouTube video, if that makes sense. But if I ever start make 500% in a day with this new holy grail Enigma, please, someone come knock on my door and say, Arjo, don't do that. Come on. You've lost yourself. You've lost yourself. That's very important for me. As long as there's still value to deliver, that's the most important part. And if there's no value anymore, then I'll call it quits. What about a video with a subscriber that has the possibility to go on a call with you and ask you questions? That's really interesting. That's really interesting. That could be really interesting, actually. I do like that. We'd have to see how it works in a format way, but that's an interesting one. I like that. Thank you. Can we expect 2 videos when the series is back? So money making concepts, next series. Yes, 2 videos a week. Yes. And the live stream. So somewhat 3. Let's see. Why stop YouTube videos? Because new people get added. That's also true. Because new people get added every time. It's also true. And there's also as in why YouTube videos get repeated sometimes, is there's new people watching. So someone might not watch my video from a year ago. So if I can explain it better and there's new people watching, it's a win-win. It's a win-win essentially. Is there a certain time on Sundays when you go live or just random? Always 11 a.m. New York local time. But if I say something different, then in the description of this current live stream, you can also find my Telegram. In my Telegram, I usually give updates really quick if I need to say something, etc. It's in the Telegram. But 11 a.m. New York local time. Why do you use previous candle high and previous candle low when on the lower time frame that is simply a fair value gap? So more like price moving towards a lower time frame fair value gap, and on the higher time frame it's seen as previous candle high, previous candle low. Good question. So Prezo, by the way, from Twitter, I remember the name, if I'm correct. Good question. And the reason why I do that is because it gives me more clarity. So previous candle highs, previous candle lows, they really give a good understanding of what we can do next. As in fair value gaps on the lower time frame. Higher time frame is going to deliver towards one side. Lower time frame can be consolidating, whilst the higher time frame still has a very nice delivery. So the lower time frame to me is, well, we could argue sometimes it is noise, because the higher time frame just has a clear direction where the lower time frame might consolidate. And that's why I like to use previous candle high, previous candle low, because that gives me a clear understanding. As well, when we're using PD rays, for example, this right here, GP Canadian dollar, when we're using PD rays right here, and in combination with those PD rays, previous candle high, previous candle low, then oftentimes we will sweep the previous candle low right there to then continue higher. So it's just a simple version essentially. And that leads then to psychology understanding, because our technical trading, and this goes very in depth, this is MMT things. So MMT is also based around, and how we can most efficiently make money is based around actually having the technicals in line with your psychology. So we can look at the lower time frame, yes, but we also need to understand that might take twice as much effort. So if it takes twice as much effort, that's twice as much brain points, mental strength taken away from psychology. That's very important to understand, because we want to always have our psychology intact for the longest period of time. So it all connects with that, if that makes sense. Hopefully that does make sense. Here's a good one. Are order blocks just fancy supply and demand and support and resistance? It's essentially, because the fair value area that I use, we could also argue it's support, it's resistance. The resistance I even talk about right here, we could even argue this resistance right here. I do think this understanding gives us more accuracy. That's what I do think with support and resistance. But it's also all the theory that's backing it. And if you like the theory, you're comfortable with the theory, then it will work. It will work for you. So there's, to a certain extension, are order blocks just fancy supply and demand and support and resistance? To a certain extension, there is truth to that statement. Yes, I do think that. I think ICT did something like this with successful student. Yeah, I saw it. I believe it was JCap. I forgot the other name. What's your Telegram? It's in the description. It's ROEO Trading. That's the group name, at least. Again, if I don't message people on Telegram, so please, if you get a message from anyone saying, hey, it's me, invest in this thing, it's not me. It's not me. It is not me. Is your community focused on Forex? Forex and I would say indices, but a little bit of everything. It's everything. You can trade everything with it in the MMT. So in the MMT, we have a lot of flow traders as well. So people that are very active throughout the day looking at NASDAQ, ES on the lower time frame. Then we also have a lot of people focusing on Forex. So Forex and indices are the main things that we focus on. Platinum. Can you go through platinum, please? Of course. Platinum. Wow. Not gone over that one in a long time. Let's see. What are we doing? Monthly, failing to create a fair value gap higher right here. If my mouse can also work, would be lovely. Perfect. Weekly. Weekly fair value area. That's already getting respected right there. It's also order block. Fancy name for for the order block. Daily, what are we doing? Not a rejection yet. Not a clear premium rate in my eyes also. So that's quite difficult. I do think we can continue lower. I would like to see a clear premium rate though that we can continue lower from. Swing high right there. Fair value gap right there. I do think here lower prices could be seen. But again, what are we going to continue lower off of? That's the main question, because we might create a weekly flag up here because we're running into this resistance right there. So that's the main question at that moment in time. What's your average re? My potential re is always higher. So I always measure as well how much re I could have gotten. Actually, if I let the full trade run, etc., it's always higher. But what is it? But my average re is always 2R. I always go for 2R mostly. What extra stuff do you get joining MMT versus just YouTube? Clarity. So think of it like this. The YouTube has really good information. And overall, you can be profitable off the YouTube alone, 100%. For the MMT, why is the MMT different? Because you pay for a shortcut. You pay for efficiency, essentially. All right, Ario, now tell me where to actually apply the candle signs. Perfect. Here you go. Boom. You have a video about that. All right. Can you help me? There's a whole support team backing you. So if you struggle with something, if there's something else worrying you, there's a support team. Boom. Immediately replying, essentially. And we have certain certain enrollments in the MMT as well, where we go over a lot more things. So candle signs that we go over in the YouTube video, yeah, that's the top of the iceberg. There's a lot underneath it that we don't go over. That's very important, which certain things like order flow as well, which I don't go over, but candle signs, especially in the spring enrollment, we've gone over that quite in depth, which candle signs on a YouTube video, that's, again, like I mentioned, that's the top of the iceberg. Can you make a putting all together video? Really good question as well. I like that. Really good one. JetGPT has all trading questions covered. Yeah, actually, we're in the works, as in we're looking to create potentially and eventually with a new website, because we also have a new website for the MMT coming up. We're looking to create like an Ario GPT, where you can also ask that GPT questions essentially, and it gives answers that I would also give, which there's a lot of work, because it does need to be the right information, of course. A lot of work going into that. Did you teach someone of your family how to trade, or are they not interested? I tried to teach my friends. I tried to teach, not necessarily family, maybe my older brother. I tried to teach my friends though. And always, it's very interesting how it works. Because if you are very interested in something and you say, you need to learn this, go ahead and learn this, and it will change your life essentially, then they're not really interested in it. And they just don't follow through. They don't put the effort in it. So it's a bit of a shame. But even if someone is in that situation, I would argue, just focus on yourself. It's focus on yourself. It's you. The effort needs to come from them. And what I noticed when I'm teaching, I'm very passionate about that. So I'm always like, oh, did you do this? Did you do that? And I don't know. I don't want to be annoying as well. So I don't know. Will there be an autumn enrollment? Well, one thing, I'm thinking of a few things, because I want to do different enrollments and I have a lot of ideas. For example, candle signs enrollment. I also want to do one thing that I have planned as well is a stock enrollment. So investing in stocks, which is very interesting, which is autumn is a really good time to invest in stocks as well. So stock enrollment around that time, investor enrollment. So how can we find investor capital, etc. How can we help with that? All things enrollments can be about as well, which I've planned. So a lot of enrollments still in my mind, which I would love to work out. We might do some shorter enrollments so we can have multiple topic enrollments. Could be quite interesting. But yeah, that could be interesting. How old are you? I am 22 years old, my friend. 22 years old. Is trading outside kill zones fine as long as the news supports the ID, or is it better to only trade in kill zones? As long as the news supports the ID, perfect. But does depend on on the time frame. So if you are trading the 1 minute, I would also like to have a kill zone, because that's extra volatility needed. But 15 minute and above, just new supporting ID, that's fine. That's fine. All right, would you ever be interested in going into a podcast? I feel like we don't know you enough. I've been invited to some podcasts as well. Riz actually, or T-Trades as well. I've been invited to some podcasts, but I currently don't really have the time to do it, to be honest. So when I have the time, I might do it. But I'm also, yeah, I don't know. It's just me. It's just how I am. I don't know. It's just, the best way to get to know me is through these live streams, to be honest. It's also sort of like a podcast. I wouldn't even know. I talk a lot, right? But I wouldn't even know. What do you even talk about on a podcast? Like, what do you even talk about? I don't know. Is this, you look 30. Yeah. Thank you. I see it as a compliment. Thank you. But yeah, I don't know. I also don't have the time to do that right now. A podcast. So potentially it could be interesting in the future. But right now, it's just, yeah. I don't know. Man, I think you're 28 or something when you start your career, are you? I mean, when you took market seriously. Around 17 years old. I started maybe drop shipping first around 16, 17 years old. And I saw success with it, but just like in trading, shiny object syndrome, I thought trading was easier profit. And I moved on to trading at 17, 18 years old. If you would put a fair value gap and order block in a ring, who would win? It's a funny question. For me, fair value gap. Other people might say differently, but for me, fair value gap. I think fair value gap. But again, that's a personal preference. It's a personal preference. Talk about lot size according to account size, all based on percentages. All based on percentages. That's very important. So the lot size is then based on the stop loss, etc. So lot size is not really the right way to go, in my opinion. As in, yes, the end result is lot size. But before that, account size, that's the first step. How much do we want to risk? Percentage right there. The percentage. Well, how big is our stop loss? And then based on that, we can get to a lot size. You look older, but I think it's because of your knowledge. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not the average 22-year-old. Let's put it that way. I don't like to party. I don't like doing those type of things. Yes, of course, I like to hang out with friends and things like that, but I think every human being likes to do that. But I'm not the average 22-year-old. Also, in the way I dress, I would argue, also not the average 22-year-old. So yeah. But thank you. I don't know why my fair value gap does not hold. It's very important to understand that fair value gaps in itself, they require quite some studying. So it's very important to understand, for example, the videos that we go over, why fair value gaps do not hold, which are the good fair value gaps, because not every fair value gap is a good fair value gap. For example, a lot of people tend to focus as well on fair value gaps that we have all the way towards the left right here. These fair value gaps are not really relevant. So there's a lot going into it, actually. There's a lot going into it. It's a very open question, essentially. Who's your teacher? My teacher, until I would argue, potentially at the end of 2022. And I mean, at the end of, 2022. Till the end of the 2022, say November 2022, I think, ICT was my mentor for trading. So only through YouTube, by the way, nothing private, because a lot of people think I was sitting next to him and he was teaching me candle signs or something. No, that was not the case. He just like anyone else is learning through YouTube. And then afterwards, me, I was my best teacher. I am my own teacher. As in, I learned through my own mistakes, through my own discoveries. So candle signs, for example, fair value gaps. The fair value gap itself, the 3 candle pattern, yes, I learned through ICT. But all the YouTube videos I make, I wouldn't make if ICT already had a video on it. So it's all from my own discoveries, all from my, I don't like to call it that way. It's all from my own concepts, if that makes sense. But I don't like to say it that way because I don't think someone just can claim concepts. You make a discovery in the market and someone else, these markets have been around for a very long time. So someone else has also discovered that before me. Can guarantee you that. They just name it differently or they look at it slightly different. That's very important. How to master ERL to IRL. Fair value gaps. Know which fair value gaps are good, which fair value gaps are bad. That's the most important part. So studying, for example, that's very important. I saw a question here, which, why did you have a buzz cut a couple months ago? Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily like to be like other people. Meaning, it sounds very vague, But when everyone has the same hairstyle as me, for example, I don't like it anymore. I want something different. I want to feel renewed. I want to be not necessarily be different. I just don't like the feeling of being the same as everyone else. You might even see it in my teaching. I don't like being the same as everyone else. So that's why I just cut it all off. A fresh new start, essentially. Do you have an opinion about petrodollar? I do not, my friend. I do not. It's the first I'm hearing about it as well. So I have to read better into it before I form an opinion. Thanks for being born in Earth, Aro. We're happy that you to have you here. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I'm also happy and grateful to be here. Did you go to college? I did not finish. So it's a Dutch system. It's not necessarily called, well, you could call it college. I did, how is it called again? Computer science. But I did not finish it. I didn't finish it because then I had the chance to go abroad to play basketball professionally in Italy. And after that, we had COVID. And when COVID came, everything was messed up already before that a little bit. So I did not. I need a video from you just about disrespect and respect. That could be very interesting as well. There's a lot of things out there that we could still touch on. You do some sports for your psychology. I used to do basketball. Don't really do basketball anymore. I just work out. Mainly as well, my main workout focus, and I think that benefits you a lot for psychology, is getting your heart rate going. So, for example, not necessarily always lifting weights, although I do lift weights and they do help. You might not see it. No, but the most important part for me is my heart rate going. When I get my heart rate going, that's very important. And sleeping good. So underrated. Don't fall into the hustle mentality of you don't need sleep and I sleep 5 hours a night. If it works for you and you feel great, perfect. But try experiment with that. Find the proper sleep. The most important thing about my day, essentially. Did you have to socialize less when you were on your road to become profitable? Yes. For sure. I have great friends. So my friends do respect me, etc. They respect my decisions that I take. So I'm very, very grateful for that as well. But yes. But my friends already knew. And in general, I'm already not someone that likes to go to a party, for example, in a club or something like that. I don't know. I just don't like it. It's just not my thing. So based on that, it's already easier to say on a Saturday night or on a Saturday in general, hey, I'm not going to the party. I'm not going to do this. So that already is a little bit easier. And then from that, yes, I did had to sacrifice. For example, my friends, they're just teenagers, right? We're just teenagers, like to play games, like to play some Call of Duty. So saying no to Call of Duty, etc. Yeah, of course. Of course, I have to sacrifice a lot. You can't get there without zero sacrifice. You have to sacrifice something. There has to be something. How is the cost of living now in Colombia? Well, it's not too. You can make it as crazy if you want, of course. That's also important. As in, it doesn't really matter where you are, unless you live in the jungle. Let's put it like that. But you can make it as crazy as you want it to be. But it's definitely cheaper than the Netherlands. 100%. Most traders are introverts. Yes. Yeah. How old are you? I'm 22 years old. 22. Should we choose different pair to trade, or should we stick to selective pairs, and how we choose pairs based on? If you want to, my advice, you can trade multiple pairs. In the beginning, you can just try to focus on these pairs, for example. I do not go over the cross because the cross is a lot and might be very confusing to a lot of people if you're just starting out with trading. I also go over the cross. So I go over, I believe it's around 30 pairs right there. Now that's a lot. Again, you don't have to copy me. But if you go over multiple pairs, then focus on an interest list. So you'll see the things I have. I have the green, the red, the orange right there, which is the waiting list, and then the breakdown list right there. Short, long. That creates an interest list. So I go over those pairs. I see which one is the highest probability one to actually play out. So which one has the odds essentially in my favor to get a winning trade. So that's what I go over right there. And then from that creates an interest list. And then that's what I want to trade. I always want to trade the highest probability pair. But again, there's also benefit to sticking to Euro US dollar. if you want to stick to one, and this goes back to what does your typical day look like? Do you want to go into the lower time frame? Because if you go into the lower time frame, then I would advise maybe stick only to euro US dollar, for example. And I'm talking about the 1 minute, and you want to actively trade the 1 minute or the 5 minute, because here it's very beneficial to also master one pair. That can be very beneficial, where you will have great intuition building up, and you already know before someone else knows. So before even I know, for example, and not like I know a lot about euro US dollar right there, before based on intuition, based on experience, you already know, euro US dollar is known for sweeping that right there to then continue lower, whilst I don't know that. So that can also be very beneficial. Should I quit my strapping career to become a full-time turtle soup? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very funny. The turtle soup story. I remember the turtle soup story. As in what is it? Turtle soup is based on the book Turtle Soup Traders. At least I believe. IC didn't tell me anything about that or something, but I believe that's my theory. Turtle soup is based on those turtle soup traders, because you used to have a lot of trending traders and they got very large, etc. And then turtle soup is essentially in a trending condition. It's this. Turtle soup traders just buy the trend right there. And then this happens, turtle soup, to then continue higher. So the turtle traders get turtle soup because they get cooked, essentially. Let's see. Let me see AMZ. Indicators. What about it? You saw a dog? Yeah. Yeah, that's my dog. You saw a dog behind the glass? Don't worry, it's not all outside. It's just goes into the garden, goes back inside. Don't worry, it's not constantly outside, but yeah. What was it? Was it the golden retriever or was it a Bernese? Nice. Can we expect you in Robin's Cup? I thought about it, I've thought about it, actually. It would be quite a challenge to do that. But for me and my current things, no, I'm not going to do it. But I have thought about it, but no, it's just not interesting to me currently. I think it takes a lot of psychological strength as well. Insane. Because you don't, it's not normal trading, right? Robin's Cup is not normal trading. It's risking almost the full account to get the most out of it, essentially. So it's the complete opposite of normal trading almost. But yeah, I thought about it, but no, not for now. No. Have you seen that there's an RO indicator on TradingView? Aha! Really? 184? Oh, wow. That's insane, actually. That's pretty cool. Who is this? That is insane. That's very cool, actually. I didn't know. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. That's very cool. Let's see, what does it exactly do? It just tells the breakaway flag, weak third for flag. That's very interesting. Well, I love that. I absolutely love that. That's very cool. And it works quite well as well to from what I'm seeing right now. That's super interesting. I've also wanted to look at an own indicator or a set of indicators right there for the community. And that's super interesting. That's really interesting. I like that a lot. Wow. I didn't even know it. Already 184. What is it? Is that, I believe that's how many people like it or something. 184. I'm not sure what that number is exactly. But behind a lot of indicators, there's very interesting. That's very cool. Let's see. Why I chose to live in Colombia, if you're okay to tell it, for sure, 100%. It was quite it was a logical decision that needed to be made because my girlfriend, her family, is from Colombia. So there's a lot of family still in Colombia. Meaning that either we're going to stay to see her family as well, stay a lot in Colombia for a long period of time, or we're going to stay in the Netherlands and fly to Colombia all the time. From a tax perspective, from a living perspective, it's very simple that Colombia is the choice. Even though it might not be safe if you pick out the right spots, etc., it's very safe. It's a very safe environment here where I live. Nothing really crazy can happen unless you really start searching for it, which the Colombians also have a saying for. Don't have a reason to get robbed, essentially. Then there's nothing going on. So that's mainly why. And then from living expenses, etc. In the Netherlands, I would pay a lot of tax, a lot more tax. So from that perspective as well, it's cheaper to fly back and forth from to the Netherlands, back to Colombia, than from the Netherlands to Colombia, etc. And it's also one thing that I'll do mention as well. It's out of your comfort zone. And when you are out of your comfort zone, for example, I lived in Italy for a very long period of time, for a year as well. And when I was in Italy for a year, I grew so much. You grow so much. You age so much faster. You grow up so much faster when you are out of your comfort zone in a different country without anyone that you know, etc. around you. Well, I have my girlfriend, of course, her family, etc. But other than that, you grow so much. So it's for your strength, your personal development, very beneficial as well. So if you have the opportunity, I could recommend it to anyone. The personal question, what do you see about your 60s? What do you mean, my friend? What do you mean? What do you see? What I see when I'm 60 years old? Do you mean that? Well, when I'm 60 years old, I hope to have a beautiful family. That's my goal. I hope to have a beautiful family. Be maybe not a grandpa yet, but at least have a beautiful family. That's my goal. Whether I'm rich, I don't really care, to be honest. As in, yes, of course, money is absolutely lovely, but family, health, having a good life, being happy about what you've achieved, that's the goal. Very cliche, but I think it's very true. What's your daily routine? Great question. So I wake up at around maybe 6, 7 in the morning. Then either if I have a live session in the morning, then at 8 I have a live session for the MMT. Otherwise, if there's not a live session, then I'm preparing the video for spring enrollment. Then at around 8 or at around 10, I want to work out. So I already worked out before this. And after that, it's essentially working. Then in the evening, when the evening comes, it gets dark, I want to minimize my screen time. So I don't want to think anymore. I want to have all my work already done. So I still make the forecast. That's how I end my day. And I'll see if I need to place trades in the market as well. That's how I end the day. That's when I close my computer afterwards. And then I want to sleep as early as possible. So getting tired. Putting on, for example, these lights here. They're very important because if you have very bright lights in the evening, you might not sleep very well. At least for me, my sleep is very important because with sleep, the day starts essentially. If I sleep good, I wake up early, the day is good. I'm very creative. I can do things. Very important. Very important. Do you live off of trading? Not solely off of trading. No. Not even only off of trading. No. But trading does help me make money for sure. Yes. I'm 24 years, still my dream has not yet come true. 24 years old is very young, my friend. Is very young. Most people, when their dreams come true, I believe are somewhere in the even 30, 40, 50s. Don't put a time limit on it. It's an average, right? Their dreams might come true when they're 60. There's not a time limit on it. Some people's dreams might come very early. There's not a perfect thing. It's not a perfect thing. What's your bedtime? I like to go to bed at 9, 10. I need my 8 hours of sleep. I can't, if I have less sleep than 8 hours, I won't perform well. I won't perform well at all. And also, very important, if you want to prioritize sleep is important to not be impulsive when you're trading. So less sleep, scientifically proven, has led to more impulsive price action. Price action has led to more impulsive action by a human being. So if you're trading and you had almost no sleep, you might be very impulsive. There's a link there. That's very important. Yeah, Europe tax, I feel too. We're all from Indonesia and live in Europe now. The tax is crazy high compared to my homeland. Yeah. And of course, you get certain things back as well, but I also don't agree with where all the tax money goes to. For example, if it goes to a certain war, which I don't agree with any war, then why do I have to pay so much for things like that? For example, one small detail. You pay a lot of tax, but you still need to pay 100 euros to get your passport. What? Where does the tax go to, right? So I'm personally not a big benefiter of where the tax goes to. So, but I can of course see as well why there are benefits, of course. 100%. 100%. Nice hair, thank you. Thank you. I don't like it, to be honest. I'm still trying to grow it out more, but thank you. Saludos desde Venezuela. Greetings back, my friend. Greetings back. I know what you say, but speaking the Spanish is still something I'm learning. How to study charts yourself? Any tips? Yes. Study a topic. So first thing is, it all starts with a topic. Similar to a YouTube video, actually, if I try to create a video, it starts with a topic. So something that's on my mind. So for example, candle science was on my mind for the past week. So I create a study for myself on it, which is also a YouTube video essentially. So do you have a topic which you're struggling with? And everyone is struggling with a certain topic, or not necessarily struggling, but it's just on your mind. You keep on thinking about it. Perfect. Right there's the topic you want to study. Then you want to go in the hindsight right here, and you want to just simply see everything that forms. So for example, if we study fair value gaps right here, hey, we had this fair value gap, did not follow through with a new fair value gap. Okay, I want to know that. That's why potentially the whole move fails. So a very basic understanding, which I got to first, is a lag with a fair value gap in it is higher probability to actually hold and to do something. So that's how you essentially study, and then going over hindsight, going over life experience, etc. But it all starts with topic. The topic is the most important, because then you know what you actually want to look for to a certain extent, and then you'll see patterns as well. Yo, my ginger friend. Oh yeah. What's up? How are you doing? Do you have a child? No. I don't have a child. No, I don't. Oh, that's funny. What were your parents' opinion about spending so much time in trading while not profitable? My mom is very supportive. My dad, lovely man. It's Father's Day, so shout out to all the fathers out there. But a little bit less confident, I would argue. Not necessarily going against it, but my mother was very supportive. And I think before that, I also didn't do anything crazy. So it's not like I was a crazy teenager. So I always had some conviction behind certain things as well. I came from a sporting background, so I always played the highest level of basketball in the Netherlands as well, which is why I think my mom also believed in me for a long time. We did have a backup plan, of course. So if it didn't work out, then I would do this, and I would listen to my parents to go to school, university, whatever it may be, right? But it worked out at the end of the day, and I'm very grateful for that. And if it wasn't for my parents, then I also wouldn't be here. Your face is reddish. Is it because of trading? It's because of me being white. Yeah, it's just because of me being white, my friend. Also potentially because of trading, but it's just I have a sensitive skin. I'm a very pale person. So I turn red very easily, very irritated skin, etc. Things like that. I had an FEG nightmare last night. No way. That's impossible. No. You can only dream about fair values. Come on. What happened? What happened, my friend? That's very funny though. An FEG nightmare. That's nice. Let's see. I don't see too much relation with time and your concepts like kill zone in the general matter. Some only trade based on quarterly theory. What is your opinion on that? Yeah, for me, it's mainly the time aspect is mainly news. So that's my main time aspect. For the rest, Equities open, of course, very important for the indices. But for the rest, it's not that important. At least for me, it does not help me. Doesn't help me. How tall are you? I'm about 2 meters tall. 2 meters. Do you have dreams about charts? Not anymore, but when I did start out, well, occasionally here and there, yes. When I did start out, yes, I used to have a lot of dreams actually about charts, which is quite funny. I think a lot of people have that when you start studying charts and all of a sudden you see charts everywhere, you start dreaming about it. Yeah, very funny. Do you have crazy 2-day-old Forex traders who think they are goats and jump into account management? I personally don't know anyone, but I can imagine. I can imagine, yes. FEG guru, let's go, let's go. Love to see it. Yeah, I'm 6'5", 6'5", yes, correct. Yes. Yes, law from Mars, law from Jupiter, my friend. Love to see it. The worst dreams about charts are those about liquidating accounts. Well, they also are sometimes reality. Is that a floating moon in the back? Looks so awesome. Yeah, it is. It is. You don't know how difficult it was to actually put it on there. It's not just you place it on there. No, you have to perfectly put it on. It's very funny. It's very funny. But it's very frustrating as well. Very frustrating. But eventually, it looks quite good. You can even change the colors if you want to. Funny. You mostly talk about time, news. If you trade EU, most news are in New York session, and you already have said that you mostly trade London sessions. So my question is, how do you deal with that? Great question. If you have news throughout the day, so even if it's New York session, even if it's at the end of the day, it's still more volatile. So if you can literally objectively look at this. You can go to a volatility index. Baby Pips, I think babypips.com also has a website where you can see the volatility for a certain day. Look at the days where you have the most volatility. You'll notice that the days with the most volatility have red folder news. Not the big three I'm talking about. It's not NFP, CPI, or FOMC, but even unemployment claims. In general, that day is already going to be more volatile before the news release and afterwards as well. With CPI, for example, the big three news events, it's so volatile that before it's not more volatile, but afterwards, because they're holding the market to consolidate, to then boom, afterwards it just explodes. So if we have news in New York session, then the day itself is already more volatile. So you can also trade in London. Then New York will just expand on the ID, if that makes sense. What do you think of funded next prop firm? Don't really have thoughts about it, to be honest. I believe it's a steady prop firm, but that's me looking from the outside. So it's don't really have any thoughts about it. Let's see. It looks like you're above 28. I've heard that about a lot today. Thank you, I guess. I don't know. Thank you. Someone get a payout by Apex. Why? What's up? What is up? I know some MT members that do get payouts from Apex as well. So if you need anything, then do let us know as well. Do you think it's possible to day trading and university at the same time? And would finance be the best major to complement day trading? I'm not sure which major would be the best to complement day trading. I think finance could be very good because you also learn a bit about the fundamentals, which could be very beneficial. Computer science, I think, is also very beneficial, and learning to develop, for example, if you want to use an indicator, very beneficial nowadays. I believe university is one of the best opportunities though, and I think you can definitely make it work. It's arguably one of your last opportunities because afterwards it becomes quite difficult. If you do have a full-time job, it's more difficult than in a university. So I believe university is a really good opportunity. Of course, it's still possible, very much possible when you have a full-time job as well. But university is the time to put in the work, essentially. So sacrificing that party that all of the students go to. But it will be worth it because the rest of your life will be a party. Tuesday has been worst day and avoid to trade on a day. That's a really good observation. That's really interesting, actually. Really interesting. Really interesting. Middelbare school. If you're still in high school. Also, that's even better. Even better. Wow, that's a very early opportunity. Yeah, that's even better, I would argue. Even better, because high school is, well, looking back at high school, I feel like it's quite easy to a certain extent. Whilst at the moment in time, it might not feel easy, but when you look back at it, you're like, wow, I had so much time. I played a lot of Fortnite. I played a lot of different games. And I could have done a lot more with my time as well. Let's see. I'm at 2,000 on my 25k live account with 9 train days. I hope they pay out. If it's funded next, then I do believe you don't have to worry about that. That's so odd, you know. It's so odd that's the first thing we now have to worry about. Do they actually pay out? Actually, so I hopefully we can make some change into that with Thunder Friends as well. We hope the prices are reasonable. Can't promise you anything, but we'll do our best, of course, 100%. How long do you think it takes to actually understand the market? I've been studying trading from your channel and mentorship for 2 months, but I still struggle. Well, 2 months is not a long time, my friend. So if you really want to understand the market to a really good extent, minimum of 6 months where you get a quite good understanding. 1 year, even better, 2 years before you actually say, okay, wow, I have a really good understanding. How to join hedge funds? Well, you can always reach out. I have certain connections to hedge funds as well. So you can reach out, but the most important thing, and it's similar to a prop firm, is you need to give hedge funds a reason to essentially use you as a trader. And what are reasons? Well, it's the opposite of anything you see on social media. Meaning 5% drawdown for a hedge fund, that's a lot of money. That's a lot. So 5% drawdown is already too much. You want to have low risk, consistent profits of maybe 1% a month, 2% a month. That's how you get hedge funds. That's how you get investors, etc. So volatility in the equity curve, that's not good for hedge funds. So constant 5% drawdown, then 5% profit. 20% hedge funds are not looking for someone that makes 20% profit a month consistently. No, they're looking at, can we give you this capital and you don't mess it up, essentially. That's the most important part. The profits, okay, but can you not expose us to millions of losses, essentially? That's the most important part. Any tips for content creation about day trading? I want to make it a way to also make understand the concept more and become profitable. Yeah, actually teaching are really good to help you understand things better as well. Break things down. So question everything. Find the definition about anything, and it will also help your own trading a lot. A lot. I heard about prop firm 90% of traders fail. Yeah, around that. It's but again, when we say 90% of traders fail, of that 90%, there's also, and believe it or not, there's a large group right there that doesn't even use stop losses, that etc. Things like that. So you're quite in trading, you're quite fast in the top 1%, if that makes sense. It happens quite fast if you stick to the same things over and over and you learn the basics, etc. But argue here, a lot of people are already really good in the top 1%. All right. I'm going to end it here, team. That's the all right to end it. It's almost been 2 hours almost. All right, perfect. Thank you, team. I want to wish everyone a great Sunday, or I'm not sure what the time zone is. Might already be a great Monday for you as well. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And next video, again, will be quite interesting, based on probabilities. Very interesting. Then thank you, everyone. If you do have questions on certain things, like I mentioned earlier, feel free to always reach out to info@art.io or see the link in the description as well. Thank you, everyone. I'll see everyone at the next one. Have a great day. Thank you.